The worst part was that I had no one to talk to. Damon, my brother, was with General Groom's army down in Atlanta. Most of my boyhood friends were either about to be betrothed or on faraway battlefields themselves, and Father was constantly in his study.
"Gonna be a hot one,"
our overseer Robert yelled from the edge of the barn, where he was watching two stable boys attempt to bridle one of the horses Father had purchased at auction last week. "Yep," I grunted. That was another problem. While I yearned for someone to talk with, when presented with a conversation partner, I was never content. What I desperately wanted was to meet someone who could understand me, who could discuss real things like books and life, not just the weather. Robert was nice enough and one of Father's most trusted advisors, but he was so loud and brash that even a 10-minute conversation could leave me exhausted.
"Heard the latest?"
Robert asked, abandoning the horse to walk toward me. I groaned inwardly. I shook my head.
"Haven't been reading the papers. What's General Groom doing now?"
I asked, even though conversation about the war always left me uneasy. Robert shielded his eyes from the sun as he shook his head.
"No, not the war. The animal attacks. The folks over at Griffin's lost 5 chickens, all with gashes in their necks."
I paused mid-step, the hairs on the back of my neck rising on end. All summer, reports of strange animal attacks had emerged from neighboring plantations. Usually the animals were small, mostly chickens or geese, but in the past few weeks, someone, probably Robert after 4 or 5 tumblers of whiskey, had begun a rumor that the attacks were the work of demons. I didn't believe that, but it was one more reminder that the world wasn't the same one I'd grown up in. Everything was changing, whether I wanted it to or not. "Could have been a stray dog that killed them," I told Robert with an impatient wave of my hand, parroting the words I'd overheard Father say to Robert last week. A breeze picked up, causing the horses to stomp their feet nervously.
"Well then, I hope one of those stray dogs doesn't find you when you're out riding alone like you do every day."
With that, Robert strode off toward the pasture. I walked into the cool, dark stable. The steady rhythm of the breathing and snorting of the horses relaxed me instantly. I plucked Mezzanote's brush from the wall and began combing through her smooth, coal-black coat. She whinnied in appreciation. Just then, the stable door creaked open, and Father stepped in. A tall man, Father carried himself with so much force and presence that he easily intimidated those who crossed his path. His face was lined with wrinkles that only added to his authority, and he wore a formal morning coat, despite the heat.
"Stefan?"
Father called, glancing around the stalls. Even though he'd lived at Veritas for years, he'd probably only been in the stable a few times, preferring to have his horses prepared and brought straight to the door. I ducked out of Mezzanote's stall. Father picked his way toward the back of the stable. His eyes flicked over me, and I felt suddenly embarrassed for him to see me caked in sweat and dirt.
"We have stable boys for a reason, son."
"I know," I said, feeling as though I'd disappointed him.
"There's a time and a place for having fun with horses, but then there's the point when it's time for a boy to stop playing and become a man."
Father hit Mezzanote on the flanks hard. She snorted and took a step back. I clenched my jaw, waiting for him to tell me about how, when he was my age, he'd moved to Virginia from Italy with only the clothes on his back. How he'd fought and bargained to build a tiny 1-acre plot of land into what was now the 200 acres of Veritas estate.